Beer culture in Vietnam is huge, and it's known for having some of the cheapest beer in the entire world. And there's actually a ton of options for different types of beers here. So today we're doing a little taste test. We're gonna review a few of the most popular brands here. I'll tell you a little bit about the history of each brand, and we'll talk about beer drinking culture in general in Vietnam. I got my buddy Zach visiting from America. He likes drinking beer, so it'll be nice to get his perspective as an outsider. By the way, my name's Travis. I've been in Vietnam for 6 years, so I'm pretty familiar with a lot of the beers here in Vietnam. I'll tell you which beer is my favorite, and you can let me know in the comments if you've had Vietnamese beer, which one you prefer. So let's start off with probably the most important beer in Vietnamese culture. This is Bia Hoi Hanoi. So Bia Hoi means fresh beer. This is fresh draft beer. It's made every day and shipped around the country. It only comes from one brewery in Hanoi, which is the first and oldest brewery in all of Vietnam. So all these beers we're gonna try today, these are kind of European lager style beers. The culture comes from the French colonialists. In the 1800s, they brought beer to Vietnam. Before that, everybody was drinking rice wine, which is kind of like a moonshine, but made from rice. So that stuff's obviously really strong, still really popular today. But beer was another cheap option that tastes a lot better, so it quickly caught on, became really popular in Vietnam. So we've actually got two of the official Bia Hoi glasses. The story behind these is pretty cool. They started making these in one small village outside of Hanoi, using recycled glass and blowing these by hand. Still to this day, every one of these glasses is hand blown. They probably make hundreds of glasses every day and ship them around the country. Anywhere you go in Vietnam drinking beer, you'll usually see these glasses. Not my finest pour. So you'll notice that there's a lot of imperfections. No two glasses are the same. This is actually one of the best souvenirs you can pick up if you're traveling in Vietnam and you want to take a cool gift home to your family. Pick up some of these Bia Hoi glasses. They'll probably cost you about 50 cents for one glass. So we'll let this head settle down. The idea is the French came and started breweries all over Vietnam. The first one was in Hanoi. So when the French left, the Vietnamese took over the breweries. But the first one, they didn't actually know how to make beer the proper way. So they didn't know about using preservatives to make the beer last longer. So still to this day, they make the beer the way they used to make it back then. So this beer will only last about 2 or 3 days before it goes rotten. It's super bad, but they still managed to ship it all over the country in kegs and in these kind of metal jugs here. And then you can pick them up and you can still enjoy Hanoi draft beer anywhere around the country. All right, you ready to try it?
Yep.
Yo.
Yo.
Yeah, what do you think?
Pretty normal tasting beer.
Pretty normal.
Pretty average.
Pretty light.
Very light.
So this will be one of the lightest beers of all the other options. It's somewhere between 2 and 4% usually. Makes it a really good beer for drinking while you're eating, having a bunch of snacks, so you can kind of drink a lot of beer but not get absolutely shithoused. So it's good for long sessions at the Bia Hoi.
So since they make everything like fresh every couple days, is there variance in between the batches, or is it pretty much all the same, like pretty consistent?
It's always gonna taste a little bit different, and that's kind of the interesting part of it. So in Hanoi, when you see all the little uncles all over the city, there's what's called Bia Hois, and that's the local bar where they serve this kind of draft beer. And they're everywhere in Hanoi. You can find them in other parts of the country. There's a handful of them here in Da Nang, but it's really a main cultural thing in Hanoi. But every Bia Hoi that you go to, it's gonna have a little bit different tasting beer, just depending on how long it's been sat there, you know, how well they do a job of keeping it cold. So some Bia Hois you'll notice is just crisp, fresh beer. Other ones you're like, that's probably old beer they're still using. A good Bia Hoi is gonna get deliveries of kegs every day, and it's gonna be really busy, so they're gonna sell out of that beer by the end of the day and get fresh batches every single day. This jug is 2 liters, so we went to the Bia Hoi here in town. You can get these to go. It's called Mang Ve, which literally means carry home. And it's nice, you can enjoy Bia Hoi at your house. So we're not gonna be able to finish all of this, or we won't finish this video.
And it's only like a couple bucks for that entire jug.
Yeah, so that jug is 100K, I believe, so it's about $4 US for 2 liters of beer. So in Vietnam, it's pretty common to drink a beer with every single meal. You know, a lot of Vietnamese uncles will drink a handful of beers every night with dinner. So I'll give you a little tip on Vietnamese drinking culture. When you're drinking with Vietnamese people, typically you'll cheers every time you drink. And so that's called yo. That's how you say cheers in Vietnam. If I'm younger, it's kind of rude to just take a sip and drink by myself. So I should always invite someone that's older than me. So for example, assuming that Zach is older than me, if I wanted to invite him, I would stand up and say, Em mời anh. And so what we'll do is I'll put my arm out and I'd hold the inside of my elbow. That's showing respect. I say, Em mời anh. That's younger brother invites the older brother, and then we'll drink that way. Yo.
Yo.
Another point, usually when you cheer somebody, you'll say, Cham phần cham. That means 100%. That means drink your whole beer. So, Cham phần cham. Love it. Moving on. All right, for our next beer, let's talk about Larue. So Zach, we got one for you here, so we both got one. So Larue is one of the oldest beers. So a French guy, Victor Larue, came to Saigon, opened up a factory, which would eventually start making Saigon beer and Ba 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 beer, which are both really popular in the south of Vietnam, but Larue was the first one. Larue is pretty common. You see it around the central and south of Vietnam. I don't know if it's anybody's favorite, but it's a decent beer. Let's try it. I definitely don't have this one very often.
Seems a little lighter than that one even.
Seems very light, very smooth.
Very smooth. Maybe that's what I was thinking.
So all these beers are going to be pretty similar. If you're American, it's kind of like comparing PBR to Bud Light to Miller Lite to Coors Light. They're all kind of light. Busch Light. They're all kind of light lagers. Everybody has their preference.
4.2%. That's what it says on the can.
So all these beers here are going to be similar ABV, similar alcohol, somewhere between 4 and 5. So again, just for comparison, a Budweiser in America would be about 5%, and that'd be one of our stronger kind of light beers. Something like a Bud Light will be like a 3.2. So these beers are all going to be a little bit stronger than your light beers in America for the most part. All right, we'll save that one. Moving on. So next one, let's go for Saigon. So this is probably the most popular beer in Vietnam. It's most people's preferred beer. Even people in Hanoi prefer Saigon beer. I think Saigon is probably the most widespread. Like, it's pretty much everywhere around the country. You can't go wrong with Saigon.
That one's got kind of like a twang to it.
It's got like a, almost like a Corona-y, like a tiny hint of like a lime-ish, right?
Yeah, I would say,
Something
lime.
like that?
I noticed the Bia Saigon has like several different styles too.
Yeah, so they make like a Saigon Chill, a Saigon Export, which is like a stronger beer, a stronger flavor. Yeah, they've got a few, most of these brands have a few different styles, but these are just the standards. So yeah, this one's, Bia Saigon is good. Everybody likes it. If you asked a lot of Vietnamese people, I think they'd probably say that Saigon beer is their favorite. Yeah, you could easily have a big session, put a lot of these away, huh?
Won an award at the International Brewing Awards in 2019.
Okay.
Well, this says established 1875.
So I'm not a historian. You know, I'm honestly just basing this on my general knowledge. I know the Larue guy came and started a brewery in Saigon, and then I think once the French left, again, Vietnamese people took over the brewery, and they kept producing the Larue beer, and then they started the Saigon brand. And then our next beer we'll try is Ba Ba Ba, which is again made at the same factory. Another one of the most popular beers. All right, ready to move on?
Send it.
We're gonna have 5 half beers to finish after this video is done.
Get some ice.
So we tried to get all these beers cold in the fridge so we could drink them cold without ice so we can get the proper flavor. Unless you're going to a Western bar, typically you're gonna get a warm, like a room temperature can of beer and a glass of ice. So that's obviously gonna water down the flavor a little bit, so we're trying to do it straight up, but we'll end up having to use ice later. Ba Ba Ba. When I first moved to Vietnam, this was my favorite beer. This is my go-to for a long time. They actually say that this was the preferred beer for the American GIs, the soldiers that were here during the war. Apparently this was their main go-to beer as well.
Is Ba Ba Ba, that's 3 in Vietnamese?
Yeah, so 3 is ba in Vietnam, so ba ba ba, 333. And that's because 3 is a lucky number in Vietnamese. It kind of means like wealth and prosperity. They really like odd numbers for some reason. So 333 in a row, whew, super lucky.
It's like hitting 777s with the slots.
Exactly. Yo.
Yo. Also very smooth.
They say that it's known for having kind of a sweet taste. I don't know how much I'm getting of that. I'd say of all the beers we've tried so far, Saigon kind of stuck out the most
Yeah.
as having like a little bit of a twang, a little something going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess the point is every one of these beers are pretty good. You're not gonna really hate each of them. And here it says established 1875.
Oh, same as the Saigon. So you said it's made by the same company, yeah?
Yeah, so both of those, but Larue says like 1909. So I could be way off. I'm sure there's hopefully someone that's Vietnamese that knows the history better can correct me in the comments. I'll be happily corrected. I did very little research before this video. We planned to do this like an hour ago.
Just a lot of field research.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's go for our next one. Is gonna be Huda.
It's the most fun one to say.
Coolest
Okay,
name probably
yeah.
for sure. Huda nowadays is my favorite beer. It's my go-to. If I go to a bar, every bar is gonna have at least a couple of different options for different beers. If they have Huda, I'm going for Huda.
I noticed that's like a lot of, we go drink with the uncles and all that. They usually have Huda to drink.
So Huda is very popular in the central of Vietnam. So we're in Da Nang, which is in the central. Huda comes from the city of Hue, which is just about a 2-hour drive north of Da Nang, the ancient capital of Vietnam. Super awesome city. And so the name actually comes from a combination of Hue, and the DA comes from the Vietnamese word for Denmark, which is Danmark. And it's because Huda is made at a factory owned by Carlsberg, which is a Danish company. So it's the
I know Carlsberg.
HU from Hue and the DA from Danish. Oh, are you okay over there?
Yeah.
So Huda, probably the most popular beer in the central of Vietnam. Huda is also the newest beer, established 1990, and I believe that it's the only foreign-owned brewery in Vietnam. So it's owned by Carlsberg. Did you try it yet?
Yeah, I spilt a little bit. Party foul.
Yeah, right? So right away it feels familiar.
Yeah.
This is definitely the beer that I drink the most. Feels smooth, nice.
It tastes like kind of like the strongest that we've had so far too. It's a little stronger, I think, more of a heavier lager.
It does taste like you're drinking a beer. The Bia Hoi is nice because you can drink a shitload of it. And it's great to drink with meals while you're eating snacks and stuff. It's light and refreshing. But sometimes you want to feel like you're drinking a beer. You know, I'm not one of those craft beer guys. I'm not into IPAs and stuff like that. I think it's gross. So I don't like super dark, heavy flavor, but I like a little bit of flavor. I like to feel like I'm drinking
Yeah, I like a
a
beer.
drink that's gonna get you fucked up.
I like a beer you could drink 10 of, and like an IPA you drink 2 and
Exactly.
that's enough for me.
I 100% agree. I like to have a session. I like to drink
Yeah.
15 beers at a time. Okay, so
I like these. All the cans have like a different kind of like scene from around Vietnam, so it's kind
Exactly.
of cool, like a collector series.
Right, so they show there's 63 different provinces in Vietnam, you know, kind of like states in America. And so each can will have a different one. So show yours is Da Nang. Can you see that? Yeah, so he's got the Golden Bridge there, which is famous in Da Nang. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we need to go see that.
We're going in 2 days, I believe. We're going to go
Awesome.
Ba Na Hills. And then here you have Quang Nam, which is the next province next to us. I think that's the famous Japanese bridge in Hoi An. I think Hoi An, even though it's close to Da Nang, I think that Hoi An is technically Quang Nam province, and Da Nang is its own province. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right on this one, at least. Yeah, we got a lot of activities to get to. My friend Zach's been here like over a month now. We've had pretty crappy weather in Da Nang. We haven't had a chance to do too much. I've been wanting to crank out videos, and it's just been tough. Like, we haven't been able to go adventure out and stuff like this. But there is one thing that we're both good at that we can do easily,
Yeah.
just drink beers. So we're like, let's get a video out, let's drink some beers, let's talk about Vietnamese culture.
The Vietnamese are I've learned, are really hard to outdrink too. Like, they're really good beer drinkers. Like, they have a good tolerance.
All right, so let me set that up, and then you can tell us more about that. So when Zach first arrived, it was a few days before Tet holiday, which is the biggest holiday in Vietnam. And I was actually leaving to go visit my girlfriend's family in Vung Tau. And so I told Zach, hey, definitely come, you can stay at my house, no problem. But we have to leave for about a week over Tet holiday. And he's like, yeah, I'll hang out, no problem. But we live in a very local neighborhood, down an alley. All my neighbors are all Vietnamese, they don't speak a word of English. But they invited Zach to party with them a lot of nights. So he ended up drinking with the uncles a handful of times. And how'd that go?
They're hard to keep up with, like you said, because every time somebody cheers you to drink, and you can't say no. I didn't know if you got to drink all of it, and when they cheers you, so I'd cheers and be like, no, all of it. So then I just drank all of it every time.
Typically, when you're a foreigner, the Vietnamese are excited to drink with you. They're gonna keep inviting you to drink. They're gonna keep cheersing you over and over again. Obviously, you can't say no. You typically drink out of a cup. So maybe you're drinking a half a beer at a time, but almost every time you cheers with a full cup, and you drink the whole cup.
Luckily, I'd make sure it was filled with ice, so there wasn't as much just...
Yeah, so the point is you can get through a handful of beers in...
several cases in a night, like chilling, hanging out.
Yeah, when you first arrive, 10 minutes can go by and you'd be like, I've drank 6 beers
Yeah.
already. Like, this is going to be trouble.
Yeah.
So I think I've got some good footage we can show here.
Yeah.
Like Zach singing karaoke.
Oh yeah, they love
the alleyway.
drinking a bunch and then breaking out the karaoke speakers, and it's pretty awesome.
But overall, good time, good drinking with the Vietnamese.
Oh, absolutely. Even with the language barrier, like I know yo, like cheers, and that's about it. And we got along great.
Yeah, and we think that we're good at drinking in America, but Vietnamese can put down 15 beers in like a half hour.
And they
eat the food a little bit.
And they're fine, they're not acting crazy or stupid or nothing like that. Like,
and then they'll stand up and be like, okay, I gotta go.
Yeah.
I got work tomorrow, and they'll go drive off on the motorbike. All right, I'm catching my buzz. Luckily, we only got one more beer left to talk about.
Yeah, we'll finish all these after.
Yeah, and this beer is kind of bullshit. It's not a Vietnamese beer. Tiger is from Singapore, but I wanted to include it because it's still one of the most popular beers. And I'm not exactly sure why, when there's so many options for Vietnamese beers. But for some reason, it's a really popular beer. It's everywhere, all over Asia. When you go to Thailand, you go to Malaysia, Tiger is everywhere. But it comes from Singapore, and it's also super huge here in Vietnam. So let's taste it. Let's see if it stacks up against the rest.
Yo. Yeah, I like it.
It's got a solid flavor. I think I like it more than like a Larue and a blah blah blah, because again, it just tastes like a beer, but it tastes a little bit plain to me. Like there's nothing to it.
Yeah.
Like I like the Saigon. The Saigon has a very the Saigon is clearly different from all the rest.
For sure.
And the Huda, I feel like, is also a little bit stronger, has a little bit more of a real flavor than all the rest. And this is similar up there with the Huda. So I can see why it's popular. This is the standard Tiger. There's a really popular one called Tiger Black, which is like Tiger Silver. And I like that one for some reason. That's like their crystal, like light version. That one's like really nice and light and smooth with a glass of ice. It's good. So yeah, I can't be mad at Tiger. It's decent. If a bar didn't have Huda or Saigon, but they had Tiger, I would probably drink that as my third choice. So I should mention, so we've tried 5 different beers, plus the Be Ahoy would make 6 beers. There's probably 20 or 25, if not more than that, different brands of beer in Vietnam. And a lot of these, even you can even go in the countryside, in the mountains, and they'll have a brewery and they'll make their own beer. I was in Pulawang and they had a beer called Thanh Hoa. Like a lot of different provinces or different mountain towns even will have a local beer that they make, just because the French were all over the country and they started these little breweries everywhere. So it's very interesting about Vietnam. There's so many different types of beer. You go to a new city and you'll find a beer that's only made and sold in that town. For the craft beer snobs out there, the craft beer scene is growing in Vietnam. There's a couple of really popular breweries. East West comes to mind. We're actually going to head there. I'm hoping we're going to do a video at the East West Brewery in Da Nang soon. Pasture Street Brewery, that's from Saigon. So there are a couple of local craft beer breweries in Vietnam where you can get your IPAs, you can get your wheat, you can get your ciders or your fruity stuff. I don't know. Whatever you're into, they probably do a good version of it. But yeah, for me, I'm Huda's all the way. What would your go-to be?
I think my favorite was the Huda for sure.
For me, Huda's the clear winner. Saigon's second. What else? We got anything else to talk about?
I noticed really there's no American beers here. Like the only one that I've seen is Budweiser. They have, original Budweiser. And then a few bars I seen they had Corona, which, I would say is American beer.
It's Mexican beer.
Yeah, but
yeah, Budweiser would be the main one.
Cerveza.
And we drank a Budweiser one time and it tasted very
different.
funny.
It tasted different.
Budweiser, I think, is made all over the world, and so the different batches are probably a little bit different. Yeah. I feel like I'm probably forgetting something, but I'm catching my buzz now. We got a lot of half beers to finish here.
Should do the Hai Bai Yo.
Yeah, all right. So one last cheers to get out of here. We'll do the Vietnamese one. So what we're going to do is 1, 2, 3, cheers. So in Vietnamese, that's Một Hai Ba Yo. And you do it a few times and you end with drink at the end. It goes like this. Một Hai Ba Yo, Hai Ba Yo, Hai Ba O. All right. Beers in the afternoon. That's it. See you soon. Peace.